Can Clemson take down Syracuse before they get started? We'll talk about it right here on Locked on Clemson.
You are Locked on Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Tiger fans? Morgan Thomas here, Clemson fan, Clemson grad, host and producer of Locked on Clemson, part-time host and producer over on 105.5 FM The Roar. Thank you so much for making Locked on Clemson your first listen of the day. We're part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. And to my everydayers out there that come in every single day throughout the week, we salute you. Thank you for joining us. And if you're new to the show, welcome in. You know how we do it here on Locked On. Monday through Friday, you get exclusive Clemson content right here. So hit that like and subscribe button so you never miss another episode. Speaking of this episode, this is the Friday edition of Locked on Clemson, and this episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward, Mazda, Move and Be Moved. We had a lot to get to because we've got a big game coming up this weekend, actually just tomorrow afternoon, really at noon, I guess you could say. But finally, Clemson comes to a home game after a lackluster first road ACC game, and they face off against the Syracuse Orange, which will be a matchup that you just don't know how it's going to go. When we talked to Jackson Holzer from Syracuse, Locked on Syracuse, they didn't really know. They weren't very confident on many of the ways that they had looked so far. They kind of fought against Tennessee, and then they had Colgate, which one we don't really count. And then they almost lost to UConn. Clemson, as you know, has been Clemson, and we know I don't want to rehash that. But the biggest thing that we're looking forward to is a few things with this matchup that I want you to be aware of, because, again, when you're part of Locked on Clemson, when you're a subscriber, when you're a viewer, whatever it may be, when you're a fan, I love the support. I appreciate the support. But one of my goals is to make you the most informed fan as you get into the stadium. I want the people around you to know that you know what you're talking about. I want you to know what you're talking about. And I want you to be ready for this matchup. And the first thing that comes to mind with this matchup is that it will be decided early, in my opinion. I feel as if the first 10 minutes of the game are going to be huge. Will Clemson come out again and be very lackluster, not know what they're doing, out of sync? Their scripted plays seem to be the worst, and that's what frustrates me the most about Garrett Riley and the offense is you've spent all week making and developing a scripted group of plays, and they never seem to work out the way you really want them, at least so far. That would be my biggest knock against Garrett Riley. If you had to tell me, hey, Morgan, I want you to be head coach of the day, and I would bring Garrett Riley into the room and I would say, look, you're struggling against winning opponents. You're struggling against the best teams in the country. You're struggling against the best teams in your conference. And you're struggling at the start of games against any team. And so to me, it shows that you're not ready or you're not able to prepare a plan that is effective for this offense. Now, one thing I will say is good about Garrett Riley is that he adjusts. It does seem as if the team gets better as they play more, as he gets more of an idea of what's happening. And as they get into the second half, it seems like they get a little bit better. You can kind of say that, and you can kind of not, because Clemson didn't do well against LSU in the second half. I mean, they completely didn't know what they were doing. So I say that to say I do have a little bit more confidence that after halftime, they do slowly get better. And as the season goes on, it seems as if we could count on that, but still very inconsistent. We don't know if it's the quarterback or not, but the biggest thing is that the first 10 minutes for me decide the vibe. Syracuse is going to want to come out, and they're probably saying to themselves, hey, Clemson starts slow. That is a weakness of theirs. Garrett Riley seems to have the least amount of success with the most preparation. So let's attack them early and quickly and plant that seed of doubt into the fan base. And as I told Jackson Holzer, the fan base has already shown that they're going to boo. They're already very frustrated with the way Dabo Swinney is doing things, with the way the team's doing things, with the way Dabo responded. The fans are frustrated, you know, to the point of, pitchforks and torches. No, nothing like that. But they're definitely frustrated. And so if I'm Syracuse, I'm trying to start fast and I'm trying to plant that seed of doubt. Because guess what? Death Valley can either destroy you as an opponent, or it can start to grumble and really get inside the head of your quarterback, who already doesn't seem like he has much confidence, in my opinion. This game could tilt one way or the other early on in the game, and it could help Clemson survive some of the drives, or it could help Syracuse again plant that seed of doubt. Clemson's crowd will be a big reason why they win, but also could be a big problem if they start out slow. For me, though, I would like to see a little bit more tempo. It seems as if Cade Klubnick does the best when he has the least amount of time to think so much. Maybe he's just a bad test taker. You know, a lot of times people are pretty good at answering a question here or there, or they really know their stuff when they're in their element. But then when you sit them down and you make them sit there and you give them a 3-hour time limit to do a test, they're terrible at it. I think in some ways, Cade Klubnick is just not very good when he has too much time to think about all the different possibilities. Option A looks really good. Option A is the answer. I know option A is the answer. Well, actually, option B looks pretty good too. Maybe that's like the one that they want me to have, but no, I'm going to stick with option A. Oh man, option C looks really good too. I think I'll switch my answer to option C, but I'm not really sure. Maybe they're trying to trick me with option C. See, that's the way I feel Cade does sometimes is when you give him more time to slow down, it gets worse, it seems like. So to me, I'd like to keep the tempo. One time you get something good going, keep going with it and keep him running with the ball too. You know, Cade likes to run. Honestly, he scrambles too much, in my opinion. But if you can force him to run here and there, then you'll turn around and force him to stay in the pocket. I think you have to do both. Think you have to force him in the pocket and force him to run as well. Syracuse is going to come at everything with Clemson for sure. I think that they have a really good passing team. They have two guys to the outside that could kill you, and they have a tight end that is really reliable. And their quarterback, as long as he has protection, can really pick you apart. So if Clemson starts out slow and then Syracuse comes out and somehow has time to pick apart Clemson in the secondary, then I could see where they could get out of hand a little bit early and have Syracuse with the lead early. Now, this should be a game where Clemson outmatches Syracuse, but you never know what's going to happen when you actually get on the field. And as I mentioned last week, do you really, or earlier this week, do you really trust Clemson with a -17.5? No, you really don't. You hope that they're going to win by maybe 14, but 17 seems like a stretch. They've had a hard enough time just getting 17 points, getting 21 points. So how are you going to tell me they're going to beat somebody by 17? Well, I will say one thing. The good thing is that they're getting Antonio Williams back. We'll talk about that chess match in segment 3, because I do think it's going to be a really big deal when you look at the injury report, as we'll talk about in segment 3. It'll be a big deal coming up, and I think it'll be something that will shift the tide now that we're in at the end of the week and we really know what the picture is going to be for tomorrow. Field position could be huge too. Clemson's punting has been pretty good, so I do feel like that, they may be able to keep them close, and Clemson's defense does really well out the gate as well. So Clemson's first 2 drives, to me, I think need to be worth 10 points. I think I would like to see Clemson with 10 points within 10 minutes, because this is the game. If any game is out there for them to right the wrongs, it is this game against Syracuse that has injuries in the secondary and struggles to protect their quarterback. So this will be the game that I want to see 10 points in 10 minutes or better. Can Clemson do it? Hey, let me know in the comments or message me over on X at the Morgan T Show. I'd love to get your thoughts on it as well. We'll get into the second segment. The second segment, we're going to talk about edge versus edge, because Clemson could really hurt Syracuse this weekend with that matchup. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward is Dabo Swinney's press conference earlier this week, where he got out and kind of gave us a little bit of his resume. And it split the fan base a little bit about whether or not they're appreciative of what Dabo has done or whether or not they're frustrated about the future and the now. We have to love and respect and really appreciate what Dabo has done, but definitely looking forward to what he will be able to do to right the wrongs here on 2025 and then 2026 going forward. But whatever it did, it helped plant the seed that he is going to stay positive and he's going to keep pushing his team because they still have 9 games to go. So Dabo Swinney is staying true to what he knows, and he trusts that he is one of the best coaches in the country and he can do it. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to every coach press conference, there's more to every Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. This episode is also brought to you by Wayfair. The weather's cooling down and the days are getting shorter, and that has me wanting to make my home feel even cozier. When it comes to cozifying my space this fall, Wayfair is the place to go. Wayfair has everything you need to set the mood for the season, whether it's a comfy recliner, warm bedding, autumn decor, or even an espresso machine so you can make your favorite latte at home. What I love the most is the variety. Wayfair has the options for every style and budget, so you don't have to compromise. I recently looked up a few ottoman choices, and I'm looking for something downstairs. I can't wait to see what I can find. It's the perfect time to set up your home for fall so you can enjoy cozy nights in with family and friends. Cozify your space with Wayfair's curated collection of easy, affordable updates, from the comfy recliners to the cozy bedding to an autumn decor. You'll find it all at way less at wayfair.com. That's Wayfair, Wayfair.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. One of the big things that we learned from the injury report is that Syracuse's left tackle, Travion Mack, is questionable, and Clemson's edge rushers should be able to attack that weakness and flip the game. TJ Parker and Will Helt up against Mack or up against one of his backups that they could use could be one of Clemson's clearest advantages. Pressuring Steve Angeli disrupts the Orange's quick release plan and will create possible turnovers. And I think that Clemson needs to pressure the quarterback, because when you look at the most recent game for Syracuse and they played UConn, one thing I will say is Steve Angeli sits in the pocket and he will pick you apart. He'll start with the tight end. He'll work his way to the outside. He can throw the ball all over the field, and he trusts himself to do that, and he likes to stay in the pocket. The problem is the offensive line, when it helped, when they were more healthy, they were leaving a lot of free rushers. And even when you didn't send more than 3, they were leaving some open rushers there to the quarterback, and he got hit a couple of times pretty hard. He gets sacked a lot, very frequently, and so Clemson should be looking at this as a big-time advantage to attack the quarterback. I will be absolutely shocked if Clemson starts out slow on offense, but also I'll be absolutely shocked if Clemson's defensive front doesn't get to the backfield and disrupt this whole offensive game plan. If they get into the backfield and they show a lot of pressure and they get after Angeli, you're talking about a situation where they may score as little as 3 points. They may not have many opportunities because of how much of a threat Clemson's defensive front will be against this banged up offensive line that already, when they were healthier, was giving up sacks. Travion Mack being out could help add more to that. And this team needs it because TJ Parker has not played well. Will Helt, the transfer guy, really has been the only person that we've seen show up on the stat books. And really, when you look at Peter Woods, we keep saying he gets double teamed all these times, but he's not able to break those double teams. And if he is getting double teamed, then the other guys aren't showing up. So something has to give here on the Clemson defensive front. They're not the Power Rangers of old. They're not the Avengers of old, but we would have expected that this group would have made a new name for themselves, and they just haven't yet. They've got to make a name for themselves, and this is the week to do so. The pressure will be on Steve Angeli and to disrupt him and to get after it. Now, Syracuse is going to protect as best as possible. If the left tackle is out, well, then they're going to have to shift over a tight end. Valeri is going to be their main go-to guy, and he can leak out of the backfield and make some big plays passing the ball. But if you don't give the passing attack much time, then it really disrupts everything. Can Clemson get to the backfield and get pressure with just a four-man rush? We haven't really seen it, honestly. We thought we would see it. We thought that would be the key marquee thing for any game this year because of how well they were and how respected this defensive front is, but they just haven't. They've had to add 5. They've had to add 6 just to get to the backfield. Can they do it with 4? I believe that this will be the best option for them, but even if you add in a 5th, that may be something that they need to do to be able to get that pressure. Peter Woods, Stephon Green, DeMonte Capehart, they have to get the interior push going and compress that pocket, while Will Helt and TJ Parker have to speed rush to the outside to get to him quickly. The lanes need to be opened up by how they work on the defensive line front. They have to stay disciplined, and they have to deny any kind of attempt to escape and turn a busted play into an explosive one. Another thing they have to be careful with is any sort of screen game or bubble game out there. Anytime they swing the ball out to the sidelines, it could be big. They do trust their outside wide receivers for not only swing plays, but also big-time deep plays to the outside as well. Can they get Syracuse in a 2nd and long, in a 3rd and long? If they can, that will really disrupt the game's rhythm for Syracuse. Rotate smartly, too. This is what I got to tell you about Clemson's defensive front. I haven't really liked the rotation that we've seen so far. I don't like seeing your entire defensive front out and your second string in. When you have Denhoff, Burley, and like Adams and Lawson, to me, I don't understand. I know you have to rotate guys through. I'm not really understanding why you have to rotate all 4 of your starters at times. Sometimes you see that group of guys out there on 3rd down. It really makes you want to scratch your head like, why are we doing this? I mean, I know you need to sub, but why are you subbing everybody? Or sometimes they started it. You noticed at the earliest season, they would sub both defensive ends. I don't understand that method at all. I really don't. I think that Clemson's not strong enough. They're not talented enough to do that. So you've got to keep some of your starters out there consistently and rotate more wisely as this season goes on. Can Clemson get 4 sacks this game? Well, to me, I'm going to say disappointment if they don't score 10 points in 10 minutes. And I'll put in another one. Disappointment if they don't get 3 sacks this game. That's going to be my charge for the defense. They have got to get to the quarterback, and the offense has got to score quickly. Speaking of scoring quickly, you don't want to miss talking about this big-time chess match between the wide receivers and the defensive backs. We'll talk about it right here in the final segment of the week on Locked on Clemson. This episode is brought to you by Square, your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that make a neighborhood feel like home, whether it's a sports bar packed in on game day, or the coffee shop that knows your order by heart, or the local deli that's been a part of the community for decades. These places bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole community thrives, right along with them. And behind the scenes, many of those spots are powered by Square, just like Chestnut Coffee House and Market, where the focus is on unity, hospitality, and creating a moment of pause in your day. Businesses like these turn daily routines into community rituals. Square helps make that connection possible. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/lockedoncollege to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be glad you did. Square, see you in the neighborhood. This episode is also brought to you by DoorDash. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered the most. Let's break it down. For this week, we know I've talked about him a lot. Bryant Wesco Jr., 7 receptions, 126 yards, and 1 touchdown, and a big 73-yarder against Georgia Tech. He delivered in a big way. Even though his team struggled and they weren't able to get the win, he was a spark that helped keep the offense going. And right now, he's been the one guy you can rely on. This performance wasn't a fluke. He's been doing it for weeks now, and it's been really great. Just like Bryant Wesco delivers for Clemson, DoorDash delivers for you on Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You can save every Saturday you order, stack it all up all season long, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday, keep the streak alive, fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. All right, we're going to finish it up. Continuing to talk about the game this Saturday against Syracuse, Clemson's pass game could change drastically. And we've heard about it. It had to be the one guy that nobody could live without, the one guy that Cade Klubnick's going to need to help and stay with for the rest of his life. It's the identical twin, the guy that he needs, the guy that brought the offense all together and somehow was the superstar that we didn't know that really was the cog for everything, and that is Antonio Williams. He is now listed as probable, according to the injury report. I didn't believe it. I felt like the smart move would just, with the hamstring, just let him not play and let him nurse it throughout this week and into the bye week and let him get as healthy as possible. Maybe Clemson sees a more sense of urgency than that, because if he's really back, Syracuse may not be able to hang with Clemson very quickly, and that will help them be able to score early on in the game. Syracuse might not even have Deuce Chestnut, which is one of their guys that was supposed to transfer, didn't transfer, and he's been with the team for a while now, and he's been one of those guys they've trusted in the secondary. If there is some missing pieces in that Syracuse secondary, then the slot position is going to play big in getting separation, getting third downs, and being huge on those possession swings, and also being able to keep moving the ball forward. This could be the first game of the season that Clemson actually wins the time of possession, because they're just healthier at the right positions at the right times, and Clemson getting that depth back, while Syracuse may be protecting their defense a little more and playing with a little more cushion, could help the offense break open, what we've been needing to see for a few weeks now. Antonio Williams is obviously Cade Klubnick's number one choice on go-to routes, on options, on swing routes, on third downs, and not having him has limited the offense and made it harder to move the ball down the field. He just doesn't have another person out there. You would hope that it would have been the tight ends, maybe Tyler Brown, but it's really only been Bryant Wesco. Wesco had 7 receptions. He had more than half the receptions on the game, and nobody else had 4 or 5. When you look at Georgia Tech against Clemson, a lot of their guys had 4 or 5 receptions, and so they spread the ball out a lot more than Clemson has been doing. It's really been the Cade Klubnick, Bryant Wesco show, not because he hasn't tried. I mean, they've thrown targets to TJ Moore and other guys. They just haven't worked out as well. So this offense, I believe, with the wide receivers and Cade Klubnick, will have their best chance to kind of reset. Get those guys to the outside, attack where they may be dealing with some injuries. They may have some second string or third string guys in there. Could this be a breakout game for someone not named Bryant Wesco Jr.? That would be the best possible outcome of all. If we can see Tyler Brown step up and do really well, or Antonio Williams come back into full stride, or even TJ Moore just get back into what we were expecting of him at the beginning of the season, they should have more soft cushions. If they're playing injured, if they're playing deeper into their secondary, they're going to have to back off. They're not going to want to, play as aggressive. And so that opportunity allows for free releases, free access on the hitches, on the double moves, might be, something that works out for Clemson. Also, Syracuse's running room, not really counting wide receivers, defensive backs, but Yasin Willis is questionable, and it could push Syracuse to try to pass the ball even more. So I know Angeli wants to pass the ball more. It does seem like they're very similar in teams where they would rather pass the ball much more than they run. And now that Willis could be not playing in this game, it really kind of shakes up the dynamic for Syracuse. And I don't think you're going to worry so much about their running game anymore. Well, if they're just one-dimensional and going to pass all over you, then that goes back to that defensive line having to get to the backfield quickly and be able to disrupt. So Clemson everything matches up to me for Clemson to have more rushing yards, to have more receiving yards, and to ultimately have a longer time, more time of possession than Syracuse. I know it sounds crazy, but if all those things add up and they have, barring any kind of crazy turnovers or penalties, then Clemson should win the game. Not only win the game, but they should clear and cover the spread, 17.5, 16.5, whatever you got it is in this week. So I know you really don't want to trust that, though. We're all jaded by Clemson. We all feel like that they're going to struggle again, and it's going to be the same old same. If any game, for it not to be the same old same, it will have to be this game and Syracuse. If it's not this game, they have some other ones that maybe could be it, like North Carolina. But as you get further down the season and you get into late October, November, there's less games out there to really prove what you can do or really reset. You don't want to have to wait till Furman to actually light it up on the scoreboard with your offense, because that means it was a terrible season. You struggled all season until your last game against a non-FBS opponent. And, it's at the end going into the last game of the season against South Carolina. It's just not really going to work out. I talked to one of a longtime callers, Scott, over on 105.5 The Roar, and he said that too, that, you really would have liked Clemson and Troy to have been that game where you experimented and where you scored a lot. It just didn't happen, didn't work out that way. So can Clemson make this Syracuse game the one where they kind of get out of their funk? Well, this is the best possible option that they'll have on the schedule so far, outside of maybe North Carolina, in my opinion, and then Furman, unfortunately. So this season's a little bit more difficult than the past. And Fran Brown is going to make sure that his team is ready to go. That's the one big X factor there for them, is that I do believe their coach is much like Georgia Tech's coach in the sense that he is no nonsense this week. He's no nonsense all season, but he's definitely no nonsense this week against Clemson. And he is ready to kind of prove what he can do against a team like Clemson. So we will see, and also get a return on that investment of winning against Miami, and letting Clemson, or allowing Clemson, to go to the ACC championship game. All right. Hey, thank you so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen of the day. Locked On Clemson, also Locked On in general, has another big moment. College football fans, Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate kickoff football or college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation. A longtime two-time AP Coach of the Year, Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. A college football preview show only Locked On can do. Catch Locked On College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. And as always, Tiger fans, we'll see you after the game. Don't forget, my everydayers out there, don't forget, I'll do a post-game show immediately after the game right here on YouTube and on the podcast. And as always, we'll see you, Tiger fans, at the top of the hill.